And hi, everybody. Welcome back to Sports Talk. I'm Doug Miles. This is another edition as we go back into the sports time machine. We're going to go back 50 years, May 8th of 1970, and we're going to relive a few moments of the New York Knicks' first NBA championship. They took on the L.A. Lakers. Of course, Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Gail Goodrich, those players that dominated the 1960s. Of course, the Lakers ran into the Celtics for many of those years, and of course, the Celtics came out on top in all their meetings in the finals. But the Lakers were the team to beat that year, but the Knicks were a team on the rise. The year before, in 1968 and 69, they had begun to kind of put the pieces together. The Knicks were kind of an also-ran team for many, many years, but they finally got some key players to build around. Willis Reed, who was their team captain and came to the team back in 1964. Of course, Willis Reed had players like Walt Frazier. You're going to see a lot of him on the highlights we're going to play right now, and Nate Bowman, of course, Bill Bradley, and so many great players that made up that early New York Knicks championship team. They won it again in 1973. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll do a show on that as well. But anyway, let's go back now to the ABC broadcast. And before we get into that, you're going to hear Chris Schenkel even mention this. This game was not seen live in New York. Hard to believe that nowadays. The game was sold out, but for some reason, they had blackout rules, even in the NBA Finals. So the New York Knicks fans that obviously were not at the game, the 19,694 that Madison Square Garden held, they were not able to watch it. They had to listen to the game on the radio. Of course, that's what made Marv Albert such a great sportscaster and a very well-known sportscaster. He did the games on New York radio, I believe in 1966. He took over from Marty Glickman, and he was the voice of the Knicks for so many years. So WHN Radio 1050 was the flagship at that time, and Marv was doing the game, so a lot of people heard it, but nobody saw it until 11:30 when the game was over. I wonder how many people actually found out the score before that happened, if they gave it away on the 11 o'clock news at that time, or local radio did. I would imagine they probably gave the score, but either way, New York Knicks fans would have enjoyed watching this, even on a tape delay. We're going to see or hear Chris Schenkel, who did the play-by-play, one of the all-time great sports broadcasters, Jack Twyman, a former NBA player with the Cincinnati Royals, doing the color. And let's go now to May 8th, 1970, as we relive the New York Knicks and the L.A. Lakers.
A team continually frustrated in championship play, faced by their superstars Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, and Elgin Baylor, meet the New York Knicks seeking their first NBA championship, with their hopes resting on the injured leg of their captain, Willis Reed. Center circle along with Reed on the left, number 19 Chamberlain, the handshake, the sweat band around his brow. Richie Powers throws it up. Chamberlain gets control. Willis Reed did not try to get off the floor. Frazier then slows it down, is picked up by Jerry West at the top of the post. Reed, Willis Reed scores the first bucket here tonight. Chamberlain gets the ball up and good. It's 5-2 New York. Chamberlain comes around, it's up. And on the play is fouled by Willis Reed, who was very quick.
That's what got them in trouble Monday evening.
There's DeBuscher. Now we have Walt Frazier faking Erickson. And Erickson, with the crowd moaning. Well, 10 minutes and 10 seconds, first quarter. So it's 7-2. He's guarded by Garrett, as you see, number 20. And he is fouled. Reed loses it. Chamberlain pressuring him. And there he goes. West shot is rebounded by Chamberlain. Rebound comes off to quick Frazier. 19-10. Steal the ball. Basket counts. And it'll be Frazier going to the line. Sets up a pick. Frazier goes the opposite way, and Frazier has 11. And Chamberlain, as Bradley came by, knocked the ball away. Good retrieve as Erickson shoots. Keith Erickson, and here are the Knicks in a fast break. 2-on-2. In it comes to Chamberlain. Reed guarding him. And Wilt gets it. Walt Frazier. 34-23. Frazier shoots. And the strategy works once more for the Knicks with 25 seconds first quarter. 15 points for Frazier. West trying to get away from Reardon. Gives to Chamberlain, but it's stolen away by Frazier. Frazier, number 10. And Bill Bradley gets the bucket. Wow. Chamberlain is 0 for 4 from the foul line. Frazier, number 10, moving by Erickson. Now drives. Good. 65 to 38. 20. Baylor double teamed, and again they steal it. And Walt Frazier has 23 points. Russell and Frazier exchange passes. Now Bowman joins them. Time running out. Erickson just heaved it up, and Chamberlain put it in. And there's the buzzer. Loops one to Chamberlain. Chamberlain does it. The Lakers have scored 7 points thus far. The Knickerbockers 2. Make it 4. And by Frazier. There he is, guarding Frazier. That's quite a responsibility. Walt Frazier. 8 of 8, and it's stolen by Frazier. He is too much. Walt Frazier, 30 points.
For anybody watching, this is a way to play defense. Look at the hands of Walt Frazier. To this point in the game, he has 30 points, hitting on 11 of 15. 31 points.
Baylor really bird-dogged by DeBuscher. Runs into a Chamberlain pick. Still no good. Chamberlain puts it in. Into Chamberlain. Chamberlain dropping his back off was Bradley to help out defensively. And Chamberlain is fouled on the play. Shoving. And DeBuscher gets the ball, releases it quickly to Bradley on Erickson. Chamberlain gets away from Bowman. 81 to 56 with 5:15 to go in the third quarter. Frazier, Bowman. Despite the pressure of Baylor, Chamberlain, Erickson. 85 to 60. 4 minutes and 2 seconds. Third quarter. Baylor moves in, giving it to Garrett. Will Chamberlain. As Frazier went up, he was greeted by Erickson, who now has 3 fouls. Square Garden. Fans will see a videotape of this game at 11:30.
The Lakers to become over-anxious and come out, as we saw right there, and get the easy shot.
Even though it didn't work, you saw the unselfish, tight offensive play of the Knickerbockers. Frazier. Wow. 18 points for Barnett. Chamberlain getting it for Los Angeles. Back to Baylor. And Baylor with 16 points. That was Baylor to Chamberlain. Up and in. Basket counts. And Bradley to Busher. And as if to pour it on, they have been a superb team all year. And they're just moving it around. Frazier has it. To Busher. To Frazier. Beautiful teamwork. And now 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. We have a new NBA champion.
And there you have it. The final score was 113-99. The New York Knicks win their first NBA championship in their franchise history. And, of course, that game was known as the Willis Reed game. He had been injured in Game 5, tore a thigh muscle. Game 6 back in L.A., the Lakers won that easily. Wilt Chamberlain scored 45 points in that game, had 27 rebounds, a typical Wilt Chamberlain kind of dominant game. And New York Knicks fans thought, well, we have no chance. But they came back to New York for the deciding Game 7. Willis Reed had his knees and his thighs shot up with all sorts of medicine. I guess it was something like cortisone and something else. And when he came out of the tunnel, remember Madison Square Garden, people that were there or even watched it on TV, there was a tunnel that went back to the dressing room. Wilt came out for the pregame warm-ups. The fans went wild. L.A. Laker fans shooting at the under end of the court looked over, and they were kind of stunned to see Willis because they didn't expect him to play. And once he came out on the floor for pregame warm-ups, that was pretty much it, according to a lot of the Knicks players in interviews said, we knew we had him at that point. The Lakers were stunned, and the first 2 baskets of the game for the Knicks was Willis Reed getting the ball, and he took a couple of those patented left-handed jump shots, went right in, and really set the scene. That was all Willis scored in that game, 4 points, but that's all the Knicks needed. And the team captain really led the team the rest of the way just by spirit. And, of course, Walt Frazier took it to the rest of the way himself, put it on his shoulders, scored 37 points in that game. I believe he had 19 assists, and really had one of the all-time great Game 7s in championship finals history, or any kind of playoff history. And Walt Clyde Frazier still going down in history as one of the all-time favorite players. Of course, still does the Knicks games as the color analyst on television, if basketball ever comes back. But you can still hear Walt Clyde Frazier do those games. But he was one of the all-time greats. The Knicks, again, won it in 1973. We'll do a show on that down the road a bit. Knicks also had a chance in 1972. The Lakers won. That was the only championship the Lakers had won up to that point as the L.A. Lakers. They won a few in Minneapolis, of course, the George Mikan years. But, of course, Jerry West won his one and only championship in 1972 with Wilt Chamberlain. But the next year they met again in the finals, and that was another great team the Knicks had. So many great players joined them, and we'll talk about that as well as we do another one of these. But anyway, we wanted to remember the 1970 New York Knicks championship, and that was quite a memory. I didn't remember too much about it. I might have listened to it on the radio. As we mentioned, Marv Albert did the games on radio back then. The 1973 team is the one I remember well, so we'll talk about that as we do that show. But 50 years ago, on May 8th, 1970, that's when it all began for the New York Knicks, one of the all-time great teams in NBA history. Hasn't been that way lately. They had a couple of chances back in the mid-'90s, but couldn't quite get it done in the finals against the Houston Rockets. Rockets beat them. But that was the glory years of Madison Square Garden. At that time, only 2 years old. They built a new garden right above Penn Station in New York on 33rd Street. They had formerly played in the garden around Times Square on 48th Street. But this kind of christened the garden as the Knicks won the championship. That was a great year, by the way, for New York sports in 1969 and 1970. Of course, the Jets win the Super Bowl against the Baltimore Colts in 1969. And the New York Mets, the amazing Mets, beat the Baltimore Orioles in the World Series in October of 1969. And then, of course, the 69-70 season, the Knicks win the championship in May of 1970. The New York Rangers, also sharing Madison Square Garden, had a pretty good year as well. That team was on the rise at that point as well, but couldn't quite get it done. I believe the Blackhawks beat them in the semifinals that year. So, anyway, a great year for New York sports, but a great year, wonderful year for New York Knicks fans as they look back now. 50 years to the Willis Reed game as they beat the L.A. Lakers. Thank you for watching. We'll do this again real soon. I'm Doug Miles, and we'll see you down the road.